What's going on, guys? Seth here. Hope everybody's doing okay so far today. Today I actually have both my CS-620P and my Echo CS-680. A lot of questions that get determined and asked apart on saw forums and as well as YouTube, the saw forums on Facebook, and then also on Internet Explorer and all that too. Won't always ask, which would you prefer of the 620 or the 680? I currently have both saws here with me at the moment, to kind of show different side by side of each other. Like I said, I know they're two different style saws at the end of the day, and also give my input on them as well together as well. So I have both 24s on them at the moment. One thing I really wish that the 680 had was a double felon spike. I like the air filter better that's on the 680 versus the one that's on the 620. You can kind of see, that's more of an automotive style filter that will last longer. And also, I did not say in one of my other videos, and I'm actually gonna purchase one of these and try it here soon. There's actually like a little cover that goes over this to help all these saw chips and all that and dust getting into the filter. It's kind of like a cover pretty much that goes over. It's a mesh little cover I was actually going to find on eBay. I found on eBay and was going to purchase it here soon. I was going to buy one of them, see how it went. One thing I do like better about this saw is that it does have the manual oiler. That is handy. I do like that the 620 also has magnesium clutch cover, double felon spike. One thing I'm not crazy over with the 680 is I don't care much for the spike on it. I wish it had a little bit more aggressive spike and it had it on the other side. I do wish that this was magnesium. I know it looks like it's magnesium. It's actually a relatively new clutch cover. I do wish that it was a magnesium one and had a spike on it like the 6700 has, which I think is pretty cool. Wish Echo would have stuck with that. That's my only real complaint. Overall, aesthetic wise, they're both kind of looking at it from here, they're both, the 680, you can tell is an older style than the 620. But both, width-wise, look about, the 680 to me looks in the camera just a hair bit wider. They're both about the same length. Overall, they're both are really good saws. The 680 pulls really hard in the wood. Even with a brand new chain, it'll about pull it out of your hand. It's ready to go. So it's definitely a saw. You definitely got to be careful with how you file the drags. A lot of people ask, you know, how should I say it? If you could pick one or the other, which would you pick? To be honest with you, I don't know which one I would pick, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm going to set this back down and I'm going to explain my reasoning behind that. Honestly, it's kind of a tough decision to tell. I mean, but I will give my opinion on, like I said, this is my opinion, on which I feel would work better for certain people. If you prefer, if you're used to the newer saws, especially if you're used to the new like Husky 372, if you're used to that, also the MS460, the MS440, the 044. If you like more of that style saw, but you want to give Echo a shot, I think this is more the one that you need. Folks, Echo has really stepped it up hard with these saws. They've never been a slouch. Echo has never been a slouch, but they have really stepped it up with these. I mean, they've really come hard to the plate with, you know, they really wanting to do good with these saws. I mean, these saws have been out for a good while, both of them, especially that one. But, you know, if you like more of the newer saws, this is definitely the one I think you would prefer. And price-wise, guys, overall, this one I think is like $20 or $30 more, brand new, of course. You know, let's say you both had a 24, a 28 on them, you know, to be fair. I think this saw does a little bit better with the longer bars. I'm not saying this one doesn't do good. It's just, I like the oiler better on this saw. That saw oils real good too. This one oils like crazy. And even with the oiler not even turned up, it just oils like crazy. This is more of a better saw for milling, I feel like, or, you know, and the 680 is a good saw for somebody, you know, because I mean, I got a friend of mine, he runs CS-800s, 800Ps. He loves them old saws. I mean, it's just an older style saw. It's a new saw. The 800P is obviously the successor of the 8000, but he just loves them old style saws. You know, if you're used to the old stuff, but you want a dependable saw, first of all, both of these are very dependable. You know, these two normally always go with me when I go cutting. I normally always take at least 3 saws when I go out cutting. Like, if I know I've got an afternoon's worth of work or a morning's worth of work to do, I mean, I normally take at least 3 to 4 saws with me. And normally these two always go. But if you like more of an older style saw, this is a good saw for milling, Alaskan mill. I think this saw would do good for that. This saw does good with the 28, the long bars, like I said, just due to the oiler and the amount of torque. That saw does really good too. It's just you can tell if your chain's getting dull, or for whatever reason, you know, and I know this happens from time to time, and it's hard to tell, guys, with sharpening chains, because I've been there and done that. You know, you think it'll look good and cut good, and you know, it looks like it should work, and it just don't cut as great. You know, you didn't file the drags down just enough, you know, to where the tooth can get over it. So you can tell it more with this one than this saw here, you know. But like I said, this is more torque, this is more RPMs, you know. But they're both great saws. For me, somebody asked me if I had to pick one of them, which would I pick? Honestly, I will answer that question to the best of my ability. I love them both, hands down. to me, when I'm running a saw, and I'm kind of like this when I get in a car, that represents the mood that I'm in. Somebody asked me, well, Seth, how do you determine that? Simple. You know, if I'm, you know, in the mood to be different, you know, be unique, or I want to feel like, you know, like I want to run my old saws, but, you know, we all know old saws are very temperamental, then I would pick this. If I know I'm in the mood, you know, kind of to, you know, like I've got 4 620Ps, and I've got this in the 670. You know, if I'm in the, it just depends on what I'm in the mood for, you know, but if I'm in the mood, you know, to run like my older saws, but in an application, you know, I don't get the older saws out and run them that much, or take them like in the woods or something, or a situation, you know, where they could possibly be put at risk and damaged, because it is hard to find parts for them older Echoes and John Deeres. You know, I would assume just run this thing. That I like running more when I'm around somebody. You know, like I said, I've got friends that have Steels and Husqvarnas. I've let about 5 friends of mine run this particular saw, the 620P, and a buddy of mine has a Husqvarna 268 XP, the newer 268. He would rather assume just have this than his 268. He liked that saw much better, you know. I guess more when I'm around somebody, or somebody that's never seen, you know, because I mean, both of these saws are very incredible for what they are. But, you know, this saw is unique for what it is. Like I said in the one video, you know, I mean, there's guys online making videos with 70cc class saws, you know, like with Husky 372 XP, 441 steel, or MS 440 or 044, and, you know, like with the 7310, and they've got one of these in it. You know, that to me speaks. You know, both of these are professional saws. They're both saws, you know, that tree guys would like. More tree guys would probably prefer this saw than this one. I could be wrong. That's just from my experience, and people, I know what they like in saws. But everybody's different, and I respect everybody and their wishes. But if I had to pick one of the two, which would I go with? I would probably lean more towards this, in a way, just for, you know, just newer characteristics, you know. But I do like this saw. I like this saw a lot. I mean, that's a tough call for me. For most people that like the new saws are going to pick this. For most people that are used to older stuff, you could pick either or, but I think most of them would prefer this, you know, if you're used to the old Home Lights, McCulloughs, and the Pioneers, and a bunch of other older chainsaws, or even the old Echoes. You know, I think you might would prefer this. So it's really, honestly, a tough call to call for me. You know, I know a lot of people don't like the 680. They think it's very heavy, very slow, characteristic saw for what it is. I mean, I enjoy mine, and I don't think mine is a slow cutting saw at all. I mean, it's just different. You got to know how to take the 680. If you're around older saws, you know how to take it. I think if you're used more to the new stuff like this, this is a real step back. But I will say this, as of respect I have for the 680, and this is something I feel like doesn't get discussed, because people just be like, oh, the 680 is old and outdated. I will say this, and just kind of just to put this out there, and I hope this gets discussed. If it wasn't for this, the 680, the 670, you would not have one of these. Seth, what makes you think that? Good question. This, like I said in the one video, and I will repeat it again, the 6700 come out in 1987. Then they swapped over to the 670 in 2001, 2002, run that in production all the way to 2009, 2010. I'm not sure off the top of my head because back then I was not really much into saws and stuff like I am very in detailed with now. The 680 is still currently, both these saws actually are both currently still in production. The predecessor of this obviously is the 670. For this one, it's the 600P. This is a significant upgrade compared to the 590 and 600P. But here's the reason why I say that if it wasn't for the 680, you wouldn't have the 620. Because these two, in comparison, are both right on the money for competition to me, as of right now. You know, the 670 had been around for a long time, and back in the day, they sold a ton of 670s, a ton of them. But you also got to think about too, and this is something that I've honestly thought about, and I want to put this out there for people to pick up on. Back when the 670 was still in production, you had the CS, I think it's the 510 or 520. Well, anyways, it's like a 50cc saw. You had that, and then you stepped up to the 670. Both of these saws, obviously, I'm sure both of you know. If not, both of these are 3/8 pitch saws. I think the 520 was a 325 pitch. So it's a different style of cutting, you know, if you're not used to it. I prefer a 3/8 myself. 325 isn't bad. The kicker with 325 is you just got to get it sharp. So you got to get them sharp. After that, and you know, if you got good wood you're cutting into, I mean, like good green stuff, I mean, it does great. Dry stuff, I feel like it gets dull very quickly. Just on my experience. So I haven't run many with 325 pitch chains. I've been around mostly 3/8 and 4/4. So, but you know, like I have said before, Echo has not had a true 60cc saw, because nowadays, you know, you have this, you have the 4910, you've got the 501P, you've got the 590, then the 620P, well, P and PW, you have the 680, and you have the 7310. So the 520 would be here, and then the 680 would be here. You didn't have all these other saws in the process back then. You know, you just didn't have as much a selection. You know, the 501P is a professional version, you know, 490, like this is a professional version 590. Very fast cutting little saw. I mean, it's a very impressive little saw. I mean, power head itself weighs 10.6 pounds. I mean, that's very lightweight for a 50cc. I mean, it's a very impressive little saw. You know, like this is a very impressive mid-size saw. But you know, I just feel like, you know, you wouldn't have one of these if you didn't have this. Because like I said, it's been since the 70s since Echo's had a true 60cc saw, like a true 60cc clash. Because, you know, once you get like past 60, people, you know, or people that are not very familiar with chainsaws think that's a big saw. And, you know, to somebody that doesn't run saws regularly, you know, that, and honestly, I admit, a grown 40-year-old man, you know, that was scared to death of one of these. I mean, a 680. I mean, you just look at that, and I mean, to most people that are used to, like, you know, a CS-400, you know, that's a hell of a saw. You know, and to them it's like, you know, you're kind of scared of it. Um, like the guy that had my John Deere 65 EV, that's also on my channel too if you want to check that video out. But, you know, I just feel like I have mostly respect for this one and the 670 because, you know, and I had a guy at my Echo dealer that I go to, one of the guys that normally waits on me, he's an older fella. He used to have a 670 back in the day. And, you know, they sold great back then. I mean, they're very good saws. I mean, for what they were back then. I mean, you know, you got to start somewhere. It's just my outlook. You got to start somewhere. He had a 670 back in the day. But when they come out with the 600P and the 590, he bought a 590 and got rid of his 670. So, you know, it just tells me, you know, he bought that to get him by back then, and now he just wanted something, you know, a little bit, you know, I mean, these are heavy, you know, being mostly magnesium. I mean, I will say it, you know. But, you know, to most people, they just wouldn't want all this. They'd rather have something more like that. Or 590, you know. Which, you know, I get it. I mean, I'm sure there's people back in the day, you know, back a couple years ago, and some that have had a 680 or a 670 when they come out with that. I'm sure, you know, there's plenty of people that sold this and or traded it in or done whatever to get a 620P. You know, I'm sure of it. I mean, there's one guy right there, you know, traded his 670 in on a 590. You just didn't have all that extra selection, you know, when this saw was out. Well, the 670. You know, when the time they come out with this, they had, you know, you had the, I'm trying to think, you had the CS-450, you had the CS-530. Them two are about kind of like, you know, the 40, kind of like the 490 and the 500P, which is the basically, you know, the situation kind of like with the 620P and the 600. There was a 500P. It was basically the predecessor before it, you know. I'm confusing myself a little bit, but anyways, you know, back when this saw come out, you know, you had the CS-450, you had the CS-530, I think the CS-600, and then this, but I could be wrong. Somewhere in between there is when they come out with the 590. I'm aware of that, but, you know, I mean, if you're used to new stuff, I think this is the better way to go. If you like more older stuff, but a saw that's cool, you might like this better. So it's one of them things that just depends. A lot of people, like I said, that I have let run this saw have also ran this one too. Well, 3 of them have. 3 out of the 5 have. But they all preferred this one over it, if you ask them. And, you know, they don't run them as much as I do. But I hope this helps a lot of people, and I'm sorry to confuse you with all the models. For those of you that aren't, how should I say it, as big into Echo history. But, you know, it's worth looking into. But like I said, I have respect for this, because if it wasn't for that, you wouldn't have this. I mean, you got to start somewhere. And this has been a very, very successful saw for Echo. You know, I think when it comes time to when they come out with the successor for the 620P, I mean, I think it'll be like a CS-6210, something like that. If they keep going with the kind of the 10 series like they're going with now, you know, you got the 3510, the 4910, the 7310. I ain't up to date with all their new 10 series models. But I'd like to see what it looks like, and I do hope they do something with that air filter. That's probably my #1 complaint with these. Other than that, I mean, you just get what you pay for. I think they ought to go back to the air filter style like that's on that. But guys, I hope this helps everybody. You know, this is somebody that has two of them to talk about. And I've had both of these saws together. I purchased them both in the summer of 2020. And here we are in April of 2023. So this summer I would have had them both for 3 solid years. So I do hope this helps everybody. But you know, I prefer them both, but you know, that's up to you to decide, you know, as for you, which would you prefer to pick? You know, both of them have a good spot in my heart and flat out respect. I mean, they both do what they're supposed to do. They both cut great. I mean, like I said, I normally always take them two with me when it comes time to cut. And I'm going to do a lot of work at one time, so. But like, share, and subscribe. Hope this helps everybody. Sorry this video got a little long. Hope it didn't get too boring. Be honest, be safe, work hard, help your peers, and take care, everybody. Appreciate you guys. Thanks.